everybody, welcome back. Today I am going to show you how to make a basic balloon garland like a professional. We are not going to use any of those strips that come with balloon kits. We are going to do this like a pro. I'm also going to share with you my my formula for how I assemble my garlands and how I make them look full. And let's get going with it, okay? So first we are going to start with I would say medium-sized balloons. So depending on the brand that you're using, that's going to be somewhere around 10, 11, or 12 inches or so. And I like to make clusters of 6, and I like to alternate between 6 of the medium size all in one, and then the next cluster will be 5 of those plus an 18 or 17 depending on the brand inch. So let me show you what I mean by that. Okay. Before we go any further, get a pump, a double pump, right? Next, I just blew these up, but I am not going to tie these yet. These are not ready to be tied. First, we need to, do you see how this is more of an oval shape? We need to round these out. If you want a professional look, this is one of the #1 ways that you can spot the difference between amateur and professional if you leave the balloons in an oval shape. So to round them out, we just need, I just use my body, but you can use the floor or whatever. And we're just gonna slowly, I realize how silly I look. We're gonna slowly let the air, just a little bit, I'm loosening just a little bit, and round them out. And now we have a much more circular shape. To keep that circular shape, there's also an important way that we need to tie these. So we're gonna tie these two together to make a dupe. And we're not gonna tie them together just anyway. Let's see if I can show you this. We want to get these as close together as possible and stretch the necks so that we have as close to the base of the circle, the balloon, as possible when we twist them together. And then we're going to make a knot. So the goal is that you have a lot of neck left over and that these are nice and smooshed together. So we don't want to tie them together at the tips of the necks. We want the necks to be nice and tightly crossed together. Okay, so there's my first dupe. Now I'm going to make 2 more for a quad. All right, so we got 2 dupes. Now we're going to twist these together just by pushing these together and giving it just 1 or 2 twists. I only like to do 1 or 2 just in case I'm on site and I decide I want to take these apart for some reason. I can easily pull them apart and there's not a ton of twisting involved. So you can stop here and make a quad if you want your formula to involve quads, but typically what happens if you just leave it here and you stack quads is it's going to be very uniform and you're not going to get that nice, full, varied look. So that's why I like to add a 3rd dupe for a total cluster of 6. Add that in and give it a twist. Now we have a nice tightly put together 6. You can do 1 more if you want to do 8. Again, I prefer 6. 8 tends to get a little bit too bulky for me. Okay, so the second one that we're going to make is very similar, but we're going to do one thing different, which is adding in an 18-inch balloon. When you're doing an organic garland, you do not need to worry too much at all about the balloons being the same size. That's more important for columns and arches, but for an organic garland, they just need to be approximate. All right, so here's the key difference. So far it's the same. I set up my quad the same, but for the last set of 2, I am going to pick up one of the medium size and then an 18-inch. All right, much bigger. Still need to round it out. And then we're going to tie this together in the same way and add it to this in the same way. So we still have 6 balloons in this cluster, but now, as you can see, one of them has this 18-inch balloon. And that's how I'm going to blow up this color. I'm going to continue to alternate so that I have 1 of each. I like to have an 18-inch sort of regularly along the way in my garland. Once you get the hang of this, it really does go quickly. I'm going to show you this again up close. So I'm pulling tight at these necks so that these are as smushed together as possible, and then rotating. All right, that's it for the pink part of the base of this garland. For the next color, we're just going to rinse and repeat. When I first started doing this, I was afraid of the 18-inch balloons. They're just so much bigger than like your standard balloon, and I was like, I was worried that they just, I don't know, that they were too big and bulky. But really, when you want a professional look, they help so much with that because they add so much dimension and variation. So that is one of the keys to creating this look, is varying the sizes, which again is why you don't need to worry about the sizes, the balloons being blown up to the exact same size. Most standard garlands you'll find are going to be 3 colors, and then once you start adding colors on above that, you start adding on cost. So even though this is a basic garland, a professional look, you want to be thinking about what your accents are. How are you going to add detail? How are you going to make this stand out from the next garland? So with this color scheme that I have right now, florals or greenery would be beautiful. You could also, depending on your theme, there may be some foils that you want to add in. I don't think with this color scheme I would do starbursts. This is a little bit more of like a soft and sweet color arrangement, whereas starbursts are going to be kind of more loud and in your face. So I don't think I would add starburst to this. I think if I was doing this for a client, I would be adding florals. But I'm not doing this for a client. I'm doing it for you. I think some people might ask why I am willing to give away literally all of my secrets, tips, and tricks on the internet. And that's because I really don't worry that it's going to affect my business, because the thing about balloon arches is they are a luxury. They are not a necessity. And the people that pay to make them aren't paying to make them because they don't know how or couldn't figure it out. Now, sure, there are some people who, you know, they're not artistically inclined, they're not interested, they don't feel like they have the eye. And sure, there's plenty of that where we can do a better job, and so they hire us. But also, many of the people that hire balloon artists, if they really wanted to, could probably do it themselves, but they don't want to. They are paying us for their time, and so that they don't have to go through the hassle. Whether or not I put the information online is not changing whether they want to hire a balloon artist. All it's doing is helping people like me and you that do want to do this professionally be able to do it and do it well. So that is why I do not do any gatekeeping and will tell you everything that I know. Not to mention I learned it all online, so I feel like I should give back. Please don't get me wrong, there is absolutely a skill and an art to this that not everybody possesses. But it is not so complex that people who are interested in doing it themselves would not be able and willing to do it themselves and figure it out. All right, I think that is adequate for the base. So next, we are going to make our accents with our 5-inch balloons. So I don't want to admit how long it took me to figure this out, but in case you didn't know it, in case you are also not figuring this out, these little things right here, these little ones, come out and screw on here for your small 5-inch balloons. I'm not proud of how long it took me to figure that out. So with 5 inches, it's the same process where we're going to round them out and make them nice and smushed together. but instead of making 6s, we're just going to do quads. That's it for the 5-inchers. I like to do about enough to have 2 quads per 6 balloon base garland. So looking around, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pink 6s. So ideally, I would like to make 14 pink small quads. I can't do that. This is all of the pink balloons that I have left because I am using leftovers to make this garland. So we'll figure it out. I don't actually count the quads. That's just approximately how many I would aim for. I kind of don't think I ever have enough quads, or that I should say that you can ever have too many. Because these are what's going to fill in your gaps and add dimension and really give the garland that overall professional look. If you're dealing with a brand that has really tight, stiff balloons, this brand is not. But if you're having a hard time getting air into the 5-inchers, all you got to do is stretch them out like this first, and that should be enough to be able, then the air will get in there. I know that I'm not blowing these up all the way to 5 inches. It's better for them to be small. Like, yeah, these will get this big, but that's not going to do you any good. This looks ridiculous in a garland. We want that size variation. I want these all the way down to this big. I see a lot of people asking how soon in advance they can blow up their balloons for an event. A lot of people saying, I'm wondering if I can do it the day before. Not only can you do it the day before, regardless of the brand that you're using, but I would argue that you should do it the day before, especially if you're going to use less expensive brands where the balloons are more likely to pop. Because when you have something like this happen, you want to know about it now, long before you're at your event and putting up the balloons so that you can adjust for it. Even Amazon balloons will last for a day. Well, more than a day, but at least a day. All right, so I've got my base blown up and I have all of my quads blown up. So next we are going to assemble the base garland. And we are going to do that. You can do this with 260s, but honestly, it's a waste of 260s and it doesn't look as good because you want the quads, or I'm sorry, those 6s to be as smooshed together as possible. So what we're going to do is use the equipment that's already built in, which is the balloon necks. I usually don't attach the same color to the same color because I already have a lot of color blocking going just with the 1/6. So I'm going to use this. And since this has an 18-incher in it, the next one I'm going to use is going to be one without one. So I'm going to reach in here and pull the necks out, cross it over my body like this so that you can see these necks here, and then tie these together. This is another reason that it helps to leave those necks as long as possible when you're making the dupes. So here you can see it. These are tied together using the necks of the balloons, and that is going to keep these nice and tightly assembled. So now I'm going to mostly alternate back and forth between one that has an 18 and one that doesn't, and I'm going to keep it in a pattern. You may have noticed that I changed my pink. That is because the original pink that I started with, I didn't have enough 5-inchers to properly accent, and I can't make a tutorial for the internet and not do it well, right? So I switched out my pinks. I don't usually recommend wearing your hair down while doing this. Look at that static thing. All right, so here's the length of my garland as it is now. I don't know if you can really appreciate that, but that's pretty long. We typically measure garlands by the foot, but look at my hair, but not like not literally with a measuring tape. Most people will consider one color block a foot. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 here. So this would be considered an 8-foot garland. I'm not going to make this any longer. You could if you wanted to, and that would depend on what you're doing. Are you doing a grab and go? Are you setting this up yourself? Where is it going? This is going to be closer to what a grab and go would be. An 8-foot is about as long as I would want to go, and then trust it for somebody to put in their car and be able to duplicate or replicate what I've created here at home. So I'm going to stop here at 8 foot. I still have a bunch left. So since this is very uniform with the linear nature of it, I'm going to add some to one side to sort of fill out one of the ends so that I get sort of a tapered look. All right, so now we have a thicker bottom that tapers out to the top. And I think I'm going to add one more right in here just to help that transition. To add these in, I am tying them to 2 different 6s. So I'm going to tie this one to this green one down here at the bottom. But to help it, because right now it's super like, it could go in a bunch of different places, to help really secure it in, I'm also going to attach it up here to this one. All right, from here I need to see this really hanging, so I'm going to go ahead and hang it up, and then I'll do the next part. So to hang this up, here's where I'm going to use my 260s. I've got them tied in little circles, and I've got 2 command hooks up back here, and that's how I'm going to hang the garland. So I'm just going to loop my 260. Let's see. I'm just going to wrap it around this balloon here. Oops. Bring it down to the neck. So now I've got this 260, and I'm just going to loop that on my command hook. I'm going to stay over here. Okay. So what I like about this is that it's not just a simple line, right? There's some dimension in both the variation of the balloon sizes, but also in the overall shape of it. So I'm gonna fiddle with these a bit so that I have the ones that I want facing forward, and then I'm gonna add in my 5-inch quads. To add in the 5-inch quads, you can either use more 260s or you can use rubber bands. They each have their pros and cons. A 260 is going to be stronger, and it's also going to be stretchier and like snap back to bring that close tightness together that we're looking for. I like to use this size of rubber bands. The smaller ones tend to not be big enough. But then the disadvantage of that is that it doesn't hold them quite as tight. The advantage to rubber bands is I don't have to spend any time tying them, and also they're cheaper. So it kind of depends on what your needs are and what your project is, but I'll probably use a little bit of both in this one. I already have a bunch of these, and I do save and reuse my 260s. After I pop them, I go through and I pull out the 260s because they are a pain to tie. As far as where to add these, it's really just where you have holes. Like right here, that's a big area where there's a big hole there. Right there, right there, all throughout. First, I'm going to start with the gaps, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in more wherever I think it looks nice. Is by just looping the 260 around the balloon and then doing the same on the cluster that we're adding it to. And here we have it. This is a full garland. It's at least 8 feet long. I like that I went for a tapered look this time, but like I said, you can just leave it in a line if you want to. And at this point, this is an example of how it is to look, and then the client would pick it up and hang it where they want, which I'm actually going to hang this in my own house. So, and that is what I had in mind, is where I would be hanging it when I was assembling this. So I will show you where I'm hanging it and why I chose to do this. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions about anything that I did here, or any suggestions or anything at all, I'm happy to hear them. And also, please let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to show you, either about this or really anything else balloon related. Like I said, I am not here to gatekeep, I am here to help. So I would love to show you anything that I can. So happy ballooning.